Okay, we know right now that we are building a very expensive city. About 85% of the growth is occurring through greenfield development. Only 15% of our growth is occurring in existing areas. Developers are picking up the cost of about 90% of the development fees, which are then passed on to the homeowners. This leaves a 10% gap for other infrastructure needed to support these developments, such as police, fire, recreation, transit, libraries, and attainable housing. These costs are not covered through the on-site development levies. We need to start growing in rather than out, and it is also time for us to grow up. The city's growth plan, which was adopted by City Council not just a few months ago, recommends moving towards a 50-50 split because we simply can't afford to keep doing things the same way. I understand that the home builders are concerned about shifting more of the cost from the general mill rate to the development charges. These costs are paid for by the home buyer when they build their lot, but it doesn't take care of everything. Saskatoon must work with the other levels of government to secure new sources of revenue, including cost-sharing programs with senior levels of government to access alternative revenue sources that have been used in other jurisdictions. Whether we're looking at, of course, the GST, the gas tax, or other options such as transportation fees, land capture value, like along the transit routes or whatever the case is, land value taxes, where we're looking at increasing the values across the city, and transit revenue programs. The city needs to work together with industry in a partnership model for helping better determine our sequence of growth. The city has a big picture view and the industry has a strong market knowledge. We need to ensure that we are receiving property taxes as quickly as possible once new neighborhoods are built out, and that's my fundamental concern right now, is that we have a lot of neighborhoods that we have started, but we've seen the growth and the build out, and that's going to cost you money, and it's also going to cost the city money. We all are going to pay for that. So of course I want to see our city grow, I want to see our businesses thrive, and we need to be able to fill in those neighborhoods, but we also need to be filling in the existing neighborhoods where we have the existing capacity. So building on lands that have full access to services such as Preston Avenue. They have transit, they have the underground infrastructure, they're already part of a road network and so forth. Growth has to benefit for everyone, has to have a benefit for everyone. We love having more choices, more cultural venues, more social options, more diversity, etc. That's what that gets us. So not all costs of growth should be put on new lots. However, we need to encourage more large-scale infill in the city's strategic infill areas, university, downtown, north downtown, and along corridors. Or it's pretty clear we're all going to be paying for unbalanced growth. Thank you. There's not a one-size-fits-all with respect to procurement needs, and there's some things we need to do to make sure we're getting the best value. We need to ensure that the work going forward from the city is quality, that we have things budgeted for their time and that they're budgeted and are on time. We need to make sure there's vendor experience, that they have a performance history. It's challenging and it's difficult for the public to understand if we are in a dispute with a contractor over a project that didn't go well, why we would enter into another contract with that same contractor. Those kinds of practices need to change. Safety has to be first and it needs to be last, and we need to make sure as a city that where the safety practices of organizations are being valued. And also the long-term value of maintaining that service and that relationship with our community. We also need to look at making sure that the city is a place where people can go and get the information they need. In my small business priorities, I want to see Saskatchewan and Saskatoon grow, be a place of choice, that people are supported, and that the city looks for how to help. We hear a lot of times why we can't do something, and I want that to change to how can we do it. Let's find a way to say yes and make development successful. Thank you. Leading Saskatchewan. The challenge is that City Hall is not leading Saskatoon. In fact, the processes that are there are slowing us down and is an impediment to the developments that are happening. And there's been project over project where I've talked with developers and people in the business community said, I've been waiting 6 months for this, or I've made an application for this, or I had to put this in, it cost me additional $50,000. So Saskatoon is leading. City Hall needs to catch up. And I also want to say that I have worked in the government of Saskatchewan under their procurement processes, and I understand how to make those kinds of improvements and what that looks like administratively. And I also understand from a leadership level coming from the top how that changes culture at City Hall, and that's what my candidacy is all about, is making the changes that are needed so that City Hall is going as fast and is caught up with the business community. Thank you. It took over $160 million of public investment before the first private development occurred. So let's not forget about what the facts are here. And it's very important that we're now, just on that abatement downtown, there's a lot of developers in this community that felt that there was an unfair abatement in that development. We need to treat our development community fairly. Financial responsibility and accountability and sustainable planning and infrastructure. There is a fact, and the evidence is in, that we need to make serious changes at City Hall. We have a number of business processes that are no longer efficient. We continue to find ways to say no instead of finding yes. We have good people there, but we need strong leadership to put a culture of service at City Hall. More business-friendly processes, as well as more friendly processes to residents, more timely responses, more transparency on the work that's being done and returning of information and progress that's happening there. With respect to financial responsibility and accountability, we have right now record debt. We have, we're at $250 million, and $30 million every year goes to servicing that debt. And we hear all these other capital projects that we want to see happen, but we have to be very, very strategic in what we're investing for as a community. And what I hear is still a spending spree, and that's not what we need to be focusing on. What we need to be focusing on right now is sustainable planning and infrastructure. And what I mean by that is getting what we have already working better for us. So we've got neighborhoods, I said earlier, that are built out that we don't have proper access and egress to. We need to fix that. We still, even though we're two-thirds into a 3-year tax increase for snow removal and road maintenance, we still aren't seeing the infrastructure investment that we need. We need to improve so people can see where the dollars are going. Very clearly, I proposed in my financial report a dashboard that shows things are on track, green, financially, yellow if there's a problem, and red if there's danger. More transparency will improve our efficiency, but puts more dollars in your pocket. I also want to say that my vision was released last Friday. It's on my website, more.ca, and I please invite you to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelley.